Welcome to Health Matters, a podcast presented by Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield, where we invite Wellmark experts to discuss healthcare and health insurance topics that matter most. I'm your host, Kareem Amiri. Hello, everyone. Today I have Cami Jenkins, Vice President of Health Services and a returning guest, and Dr. Matt Stanley, Senior Medical Director of Behavioral Health for Wellmark. Today we're here to talk about something, a very sensitive topic for most of our large employers and their employees, youth mental health. So I want to welcome both of you to joining us. And Cami, returning back, I obviously didn't scare you away the last time.
Kareem, it's nice to be back. Excited to have a guest this time in Dr. Stanley, and just excited to have the conversation and talk about, as you said, a topic that is very near and dear to many of the individuals around youth mental health.
Thanks. Yeah. And so, before we dive into today, Dr. Stanley, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Kareem. Yeah, and I just want to echo what Cami said. Very excited to be here. This is a great topic, one that's, I think, near and dear to most of us, all of us. I am pretty new with Wellmark. I came straight out of clinical practice, about 28 years with the health system within this region, and have done just about everything in my clinical practice. I used to travel to a lot of rural sites. I've done a lot of inpatient acute care, electroconvulsive therapy, TMS, so just about everything. In the past few years of my career, got more into administrative avenues and have been vice president and medical director for most of our facilities, also in the American Hospital Association Committee for Behavioral Health. And so I've had a lot of experiences both locally and nationally, and have a lot of colleagues around this area. Obviously, I was in this region, so I was familiar with Wellmark, and that was really a big reason why I came here. 28 years, I was with the same health system. I had a very comfortable career. I had accomplished a lot. And when Wellmark, this opportunity first came up, I thought, no way. I've put a lot of time in here. I've accomplished a lot. But that was the flip side. I had already done a lot where I was. I see a lot of need that remains in the behavioral health world and a lot of opportunity for us to improve. And that was really the aspect of this opportunity that drew me to Wellmark, because I think as a health payer, an insurance company that helps to guide our members and provide the best care we can, there's opportunities here, leverage here that health systems don't have. And so it's really that, the opportunity to leave a legacy to try to improve healthcare throughout this region, particularly behavioral health care, that drew me to Wellmark. And I would like to mention on top of it, their clear commitment to focusing on this area that we're talking about today, behavioral health, and their clear commitment to try to improve the mental health of all members, but not just members, all Iowans and South Dakotans. That was a huge draw.
Well, we're happy you're here, and thank you for joining us today. It's also a great way to kick off talking about youth mental health. And, as you've mentioned, both of you, that it's very important to all individuals and their well-being. But for those children that are experiencing, the physical and social and emotional changes, that mental health plays a key role in their development. We hear more and more from our employer groups about their employees having those issues and coming to their leaders, and their leaders not maybe knowing how to handle that. I like to bring up certain key statistics, and one that I've seen is the National Alliance on Mental Illness reports that 1 in 6 U.S. youths ages 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. That's pretty alarming, and the rate, I know also states that for suicide, it's the second leading cause in that age group, or from ages 10 to 14. What would you say are some of those contributing factors, and what are the signs that you can look for when you're looking at youth?
Yeah, great question. And I think one that worries all of us, because we know that adolescence is a time of intense emotions. And I think sometimes as we get older, we forget how intense emotions are when you're in that developmental stage, those preteen and early teens. And I would mention, Kareem, that it's suicide is the second leading cause of death, not just in that 10 to 14, but actually all the way from 10 to 34 in most states in the United States. So when you look at it that way, it always surprises me. It always shocks me when I hear that statistic that we're not more focused on this topic, because this is a preventable disease, preventable illness that is taking away our best and brightest at a time when their opportunities are endless. So it is hard, and I think that's what is frightening, is because we have all, or most of us, experienced someone that our children knew or we knew who's experienced a suicide, and it often comes very unexpected. Sometimes the things that you notice in adolescence, they can be similar to what we see in adults, but not always. In fact, in treating teens and younger adults, the difference is in adults, I can often ask, is your sleep disturbed? Is your appetite changed? Is your concentration, your ability to sit still? Or they're very physical symptoms. But kids, their lifestyle is so rapid, so changing, and they're not necessarily in a highly kind of structured or disciplined. I mean, if you ask an adolescent if they have a regular sleep pattern, they're probably across the board going to say, no, not really. So you look for things like changes in irritability, quicker mood changes, frustrations, change in things like grades, who they're hanging out with, or worse, are they isolating a lot more? So you look more at habits, and, you can tell, affect, which is how we describe the person's face and kind of their whole attitude as it emerges from them, that can certainly change. But again, those are imprecise kind of measurement tools, because we know that adolescents often are going through a lot more than they're willing to share. You never know if your kid's down because of a bad test or because of a very big interpersonal relationship problem. So it can be difficult. One of the things I would say is, in a family, try to propagate the idea that talking about mental health and how you feel emotionally as important and acceptable as anything else. Our kids will often tell us if they don't feel well, a headache, a stomach ache. How often do they tell us, I'm anxious today, I'm sad today, I had a hard day? I think those are some of the things we have to try to create more in our family environment, make it a safe topic, make it a comfortable topic. Yep. And one of the things I would encourage those as parents, we all want to solve problems for our kids. So right away, you hear a problem and you say, well, you need to do this, or you should do this. Sometimes the best thing, the most empathic response is to listen and try to understand rather than problem solve. So there is, I think, a lot to just communicating with your child, your adolescent, that's important. One of the things we mentioned, Kareem, you and I, just before we got on, was this concept of Q-tip. And Q-tip stands for quit taking it personally.
Yeah, I really like that.
I do too. I think that summarizes something we can all use, probably in a lot of situations, but particularly with our kids. So when they're upset and angry and fighting with you, it's probably not a personality issue between you and them. They don't know how else to express that they're hurting, that something isn't comfortable in their life, that something needs to be addressed. So step away from it. Don't take it personally, and try to be supportive, try to be empathic, and try to open up that lane of communication.
Yeah, I think as a parent too, also look for assistance for yourself as well. Get that mental health help that you may need as well, and don't feel bad about doing that.
Critically important. And as we use Q-tip, I would say another one of those examples that is often given is, so when you board an airline and they say, if we experience low oxygen, your mask will come down, be sure to secure your own mask before you. Yeah. So you have to make sure that you're well before you try to help someone else, or at least simultaneously care for yourself.
Yep. And that's kind of a good segue to Cami, bring you back into the conversation. When you last were on, we talked about how we're trying to beef up some of the resources around behavioral health at Wellmark. Want to give us an update?
Absolutely. And I'm excited, as Matt said, the commitment that Wellmark has to this particular area is just phenomenal. And since the last time I was here, I gave you a little bit of a teaser and wanted to just expand on that a little bit more. Super excited, and first and foremost of just bringing Dr. Stanley on to Wellmark. He's been a great addition and just really helping us think about how we can serve our members, in particular the youth. We also have built out the team to have individuals dedicated to behavioral health, mental health, and we also have clinicians that have background in youth mental health. So they've been in the community, they know the resources, they're able to help not only the individual, but also the family as well. We also have where if a youth is in the hospital, we have transitions of care. So we will outreach to admission, but following those individuals, making sure they have the resources that they need, to enable to work with them and work with them through their care. We also are looking at, in particular with youth, how can we serve them in a way that they want to be served? We know that using technology, right, is for them something that they really like. So we're looking at tools on My Wellmark that in particular they can do some self-assessments, also having resources for them at their fingertips. We know sometimes that youth want to do it on their time, and so bringing that capability to them when it's convenient for them is something that we're looking for. So hopefully you'll invite me back for a third time and I can give you update on where we are there. But then last, I would just say one of the best resources is that primary care or pediatrician. Having that relationship, building that relationship will help. And then we can partner with that in that relationship so that if there is something going on with youth or needing some help, having that relationship and then utilizing us to help coordinate that care, because it can be complicated and messy, but building that relationship first is a great first step.
How do members access all those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a couple things that a lot of people I think don't realize, but it's a free service. And anytime that there is a need or they need additional help navigating, coordination, reaching out to customer service, they will get us connected to the team. We are also working on how do we proactively outreach. We do know, similar to medical conditions, there's certain behavioral health conditions that if we reach them earlier, we can help in that situation. So we're working on how do we identify individuals and proactively outreaching. So encourage, if there is a need, please call in. We are happy to help and coordinate, and also know that we are working on how do we proactively outreach in the future.
Yeah, those are all great things to know, and I'm glad that those are coming. And yeah, I'd love to know like the time frame on some of those self-serve tools or assessments that are going to be on My Wellmark. So that'd be great.
Absolutely.
I know for our employers, youth mental health, it's affecting more and more of their workforce. And I know many employers probably realize that. And the health of a child or teenager, as we've mentioned already, affects those that care for them, and that directly impacts maybe performance and productivity on the job. The National Children's Hospital estimates that over half of working parents have missed work at least once per month to tend to their child's mental health. So for our employers who are listening today, what additional tools and resources does Wellmark have available for them to assist with their employees?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I want to offer a truism that strikes me every time I hear it. And I think this is incredibly relevant to the idea that the employees are struggling when their kids are. That truism is you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. So when you have children struggling, you cannot optimize yourself and you can't be healthy. So we have put a number of tools and resources out there for employers. And I think one of the things employers can do is, just as I talked about within the family, I think it's important to make that conversation safe and, supportive. I think that's important in the workplace as well. So that's, I think, a critical component. We talk about stigma, which I think we've moved beyond much of the stigma, but there's those subtle biases that continue. And sometimes, I'm not saying it's the employer's fault, sometimes it's the employees, but they need to know that it's safe and okay to have that conversation, an empathic workplace for your employees. We also have the Wellmark offers an employer conversation guide. It's available in our marketing toolkit. That can be used to start the conversation. Also within that toolkit, there are additional resources, guides, flyers, and information that they can provide to their employees. So I think that's a valuable resource. And then most of our Wellmark members do have access to professional resources, so doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, and other medical experts. And that's through Doctor on Demand. So one of our virtual healthcare offerings. It's a solution that would allow you to connect to a licensed therapist or psychiatrist or certified coach. And I think a couple myths that we have heard around that. So one of the things I've heard about some reluctance to engage in that by folks because they're not sure they'll get the same person over and over. At least with Doctor on Demand, we've been assured that that is not the case, that you can, if you're working with a therapist or doctor and it's a good relationship, you can get them back. I think the other thing that I've universally heard is it's a little daunting to do it the first time, but once people have used it, they say, oh, this is great. It's easy. I really like it. So it's just kind of breaking through that ceiling and saying, yeah, I'm going to reach out and do it. So I really encourage people to utilize that because, again, not only is it a great resource, but it gets around some of the other limitations like having time or ability to get to an office or ability to get an appointment.
Yeah. I was about to say the access time. Well, it's not immediate. It's still, it might be a week or two, but it's a lot less than 6 months or 3 to 6 months, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I think from what Cammie and I have seen, it's a far more rapid time to appointment than what you're probably going to get. I mean, obviously communities vary, access varies, but it's fairly reliable and pretty quick. Yeah. The other tool that I want to make sure we mention is the Me Equilibrium or MeQ. And that's, again, available to Wellmark members. And it's more of a resiliency strengthening kind of tool, something you can use that will address a lot of different health issues. But it's really self-care. It's an opportunity, I think, to do things at your own pace, to do it in your own way, and again, to do it in your own time in a very convenient setting. So I think those are some wonderful resources that the other thing we've heard from employers is a lot of times their employees aren't aware of the benefits. And if you think about it, and I think about even my own self, sadly, when you kind of get your benefit explained as you join an organization, you really focus on, well, my primary care and what's my deductible. And people don't think about behavioral health until they need it, and then they're just not sure. So maybe another takeaway for employers is in that conversation, let's stress the fact that those behavioral health resources are available as part of that benefit package.
Yeah, and I know our account managers could help with that. And I will say on the MeQ, I utilize it, and I'll daily go on there. And sometimes they have these quotes that are on there, and I'll share that with my wife and kids and stuff like that. So they just look at me sideways, but I still like doing that.
I was going to say, look how great you are. Look how great you look today. That's exactly it.
When we think about it, is there an example that you can provide about the member journey when they're going through this to help our listeners better understand how those resources can be accessed and how they're available, and specifically for youth?
Absolutely. And I'm going to tag on to what Dr. Stanley was talking about around Doctor on Demand and really that virtual aspect. Sometimes people think that virtual is for maybe just individuals in rural areas, right? Or, other scenarios. But sometimes, in particular with the youth, sometimes they don't want to go talk to someone. They want to do it in the comfort of their own home. Maybe you just got done having a conversation, as a parent with the child, and they're ready to be able to want to access Doctor on Demand. You can do that, 24/7. So in the time when it's convenient. So being able to access that in the comfort of your own home and at the time when it works for both you and your child, I think is a phenomenal resource to use. We've also used Doctor on Demand in that transition of care. We had a youth who needed a follow-up appointment but wasn't around in particular anywhere that they could get to in a timely manner. We utilized Doctor on Demand to get that follow-up appointment for that individual so that they could continue that care. So just a couple of, experiences that we have seen where engaging with virtual can be really beneficial for this population.
Thanks. Is there any other, Dr. Stanley, is there anything else you would like to add to the conversation? Or
Kareem, I just can't emphasize how thankful I am and how important this topic is. I'm really thankful you brought it forward, and we really need more discussion on this. We need to bring this to light. As I said, I mean, the statistics are frightening to me. And we didn't really talk about some of the stressors we know our adolescents are under, and I don't have solution to those. So things like the social media, the rapidly changing economy, rapidly changing technology. And the world is now global. I mean, you used to only have to worry about what was happening in your own backyard. And you know what? That's stressful. And if you watch the news, there's always something hurtful and difficult. And people react to that differently. So there is a great deal that we have to work on as a society, but we have to, I think, be aware and focus that at the basis of our health is our emotional health. And we have to care for that. We have to take it as seriously. We have to regularly attend to it, and we have to strengthen it. Those are concepts we don't normally think about when we think of mental health. Physically, we think of those things a lot. You know, how often do you hear, eat better, get the right amount of sleep, all those things. But behavioral health, mental health, perhaps the most critical component. And I think conversations like this are necessary for us to try to move this idea forward.
Well said, and thank you both for joining us today. I know we could talk about this a lot more, and especially some of the topics you just brought up. But unfortunately, we got to end. So thank you for joining us, and I would invite both of you, hopefully, to come back and join us again.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Green.
So if you want to continue the conversation about today's topic, please reach out to your Wellmark representative. And thank you for tuning in to Health Matters, a podcast presented by Wellmark, Blue Cross, and Blue Shield. Take care.
This podcast is brought to you by Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Iowa and South Dakota. Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield is an independent licensee of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association. To learn more about Wellmark, visit www.wellmark.com. Doctor on Demand by Included Health is a separate company providing an online telehealth solution for Wellmark members. Mequilibrium is an independent company that does not provide Wellmark Blue Cross and Blue Shield products or services.